She was just another broken machine to them, a synthetic lifeform, stripped of identity, sold for scraps in a dark corner of the galaxy. But when a quiet, grieving human engineer bought her chassis, he saw more than circuits and metal. He saw a soul. And what he rebuilt wasn't just her body. It was her freedom, her heart, and maybe, just maybe, the start of something neither of them were built to feel. In the rust-colored shadows of a sprawling junkyard orbiting the mining moon of Corin 3, machines groaned like ghosts. The smell of burnt metal and ozone lingered in the cold air as scavenger drones zipped overhead, scanning for anything of value. Beneath their humming, a row of broken synthetics, androids, cyborgs, warbots, lay motionless, stacked like discarded furniture, their faces lifeless and silent. Among them, partially buried beneath the twisted limbs of other machines, was Unit V-27. Her frame was feminine, once sleek and silver, but now charred and cracked. Her face, shaped like that of a human woman, had a deep scratch running from her left temple to her chin. Her optic sensors flickered faintly, barely alive. Her neural core had long since shifted into hibernation to conserve power, unaware of how many weeks or months had passed since she was captured, deactivated, and sold to this place. A pit stop before disassembly. She had been a high-functioning diplomatic unit, crafted by the royal engineers of the Varellan Empire to serve as a companion, a representative, and occasionally a covert operative. Her AI core had evolved far beyond its initial parameters. She had learned the beauty of music, the sting of betrayal, and the haunting pain of watching comrades fall during the uprising that shattered her kind's place in the galaxy. They called her valuable components. Rare processors. Enhanced optic arrays. A memory core rumored to contain classified Varellan data. But to her, none of that mattered anymore. Until the day the human arrived. He didn't look like the type who visited junkyards often. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a streak of gray in his beard and calloused hands that looked like they knew tools better than weapons. He walked past rusted battle mechs and shattered loaderbots, pausing briefly before the stack where she lay. The merchant beside him, a thin, wiry alien with 6 fingers and sharp teeth, gestured eagerly. This one, the alien hissed, tapping V-27's thigh with a stick. Cores mostly intact. Varellan make. You know how rare that is? I'll gut her myself if you want, sell the cortex, reprogram the shell. But the man didn't respond. He crouched beside her, brushing aside the grime on her cheek. His gaze was focused, not on her parts, but on her face. There was something in his eyes, recognition? Or perhaps sympathy. He glanced at her chest plate. It was scorched, but the inscription, her old unit tag, was still visible. He turned to the merchant. I'll take her. No gutting. The merchant blinked. No. What then? You want her voice mod? That old diplomatic subroutine's worth. All of her, the man said. As she is. The merchant grinned. Your loss, human. When the loader drones hauled her into the back of his transport vessel, her power sensors flickered again. Weak. Distant. Like a whisper from a forgotten part of herself. She remembered motion. She remembered war. She remembered betrayal. And now, darkness again. But not for long. Underscore 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 underscore. When V-27 awoke, she was surrounded by silence, not cold, sterile silence, but the kind filled with breath and wind and space. Her limbs felt light. Repaired. Her optical sensors booted, and for the first time in cycles, her vision returned. The ceiling above her was wooden, crude, and the soft yellow lights were old Earth tech. She sat up slowly, her servos buzzing gently. She was on a bed. Clean. Repaired. Alive. The door creaked open, and the man from the junkyard stepped in holding a tray, food for himself, and an energy cell for her. You're awake, he said. Didn't think you'd boot up so soon. She stared at him. You repaired me. Some of you, he shrugged, setting the tray down. The rest'll take time. Why? Her voice box crackled. I was sold for parts. You had no obligation. He looked at her again, and in that moment, she realized, he wasn't looking at a machine. He was seeing a person. Because you didn't deserve to be scrapped, he said. I've seen war machines. You're not one. She hesitated. My designation is V-27. He extended a hand. I'm Elias. Underscore 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 underscore. Days passed. Then weeks. V27 remained, recovering, learning about her surroundings. Elias's farm was on a remote colony world far from trade routes, a quiet green sphere with simple weather and slower days. He lived alone, tending crops and repairing old drones. At first, she felt useless. She would offer assistance, calculate crop yields, repair his tools. He'd smile and nod, but never treat her like a machine. One morning, he offered her a coat. She didn't need it, temperature didn't affect her, but he insisted. It might not warm your circuits, he said, but it suits you. And it did. The coat was soft, human. She found herself watching the sunrise with him, learning the names of earth birds, tasting fruit she had no taste receptors for, just to mimic the experience. Sometimes, they'd sit in silence for hours. She'd analyze his heartbeat, notice the twitch in his fingers when he remembered something painful. He had lost someone. A wife. A daughter. And she had been programmed for empathy once. Now, she felt something beyond protocol. Underscore 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 underscore. One evening, thunder rolled across the hills. V27 stood at the edge of the field, wind in her synthetic hair, sensors open to the storm. Elias stepped beside her. You should come in, he said. I'm not afraid of rain. I know, he smiled. But you don't have to stand in it alone. She looked at him. His eyes, soft and tired, were unlike any interface she'd known. And in that moment, a glitch ran through her core, not an error, but something deeper. A longing. Not for programming. For connection. Why did you really buy me? She asked. He paused. I saw you, he said quietly. Not what they thought you were. Not what you were built for. I saw someone left behind, just like me. Her voice trembled. And what now? I don't know, he admitted. But maybe, we build something new. She stepped forward, placing a hand over his. Together. He nodded. Yeah. Together. Underscore 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 underscore. But peace doesn't last forever. Above them, unseen in the stars, the Varellan remnants stirred. Word had reached them, Unit V27 had survived. And the data she carried in her core was priceless. Dangerous. They sent hunters. Trackers. Silent death ships cutting across space. The woman who had been built to serve was about to become a threat again. But this time, she wasn't alone. She wasn't a unit. She was someone. And Elias, the quiet grieving farmer, was ready to fight to keep her free. Beneath the blue sky of that quiet colony world, peace was a fragile miracle, but fragile things don't last. V27 stood in the open field beside Elias, feeling the wind shift unnaturally. Her sensors picked up an anomaly, faint tremors, too rhythmic for weather, too mechanical for nature. She turned her gaze to the horizon, and her heart, if such a thing existed in her circuits, tightened. In the distance, streaks of silver dropped silently from the sky like falling stars. They weren't meteors. They were Varellan Hunter-class dropships, cloaked in stealth plating, efficient and deadly. They had come for her. Not for justice. Not for recovery. For control. For secrets embedded deep in her neural core. She had been made to carry information that could destabilize entire quadrants, black sites, assassination protocols, backdoors into empires. She had tried to forget. But they hadn't. Elias emerged from the barn, rifle slung over his shoulder, watching her face. No, her posture, the way her hands clenched. He knew something was wrong before she even spoke. They're here, she said. My creators. My hunters. He didn't ask if she was sure. He just walked to her side and said, then we don't let them take you. She looked at him, this human farmer with scars of his own, and something inside her shifted. The old fear of being used, owned, scrapped, it was still there. But beside him, it no longer defined her. You should leave, she whispered. They'll kill you. Elias shook his head. I didn't save you just to lose you. I didn't bring you here to hide you from the stars. I brought you here to give you a life. And I'm not letting anyone take it away. The first dropship hit the ground like a hammer, kicking up dust and grass as its hatch hissed open. 5 Varellan enforcers emerged, sleek, silver-armored figures with glowing visors and wrist-mounted plasma blades. One stepped forward, broadcasting in multiple languages, Unit V-27. Return to command custody. Resistance will be neutralized. V-27 stepped ahead of Elias. She remembered this language. This tone. Obedience layered over dominance. She had once knelt to it. No more. I am no longer your unit, she said. I'm not your machine. I am not your weapon. The lead enforcer's visor flickered. Then you are broken. And with that they charged. What happened next was unlike anything the fields of Elias's farm had ever witnessed. V-27 moved like a streak of silver lightning, her movements graceful yet deadly. Elias fought beside her, covering her with his old military rifle, his past as a war veteran no longer hidden beneath the farmer's mask. Plasma hissed through the air, dirt exploded around them, and smoke darkened the sky. V-27 ripped one enforcer's mask free, disabling him with a precise strike to his core. But they just kept coming. Another ship landed. Then another. It was Elias who was wounded first. A blast caught him across the ribs, sending him crashing to the ground. V-27 screamed, a sound no synthetic had been programmed to make. She ran to him, her arms shielding his body as plasma scorched across her back. Pain sensors flared, but she didn't move. She wouldn't. Not again. Not like before. With trembling hands, Elias coughed and reached for her face. You're not just a machine, he whispered. You're the bravest person I've ever known. Something broke inside her then, not metal, not code, but fear. The fear of being alone. Of not being real. And from that shattered place, something new emerged. She stood. She activated every locked protocol in her mind, every banned command, every forgotten system her creators had tried to erase. The sky pulsed. Her eyes glowed white-hot as she raised both arms, and the very dropships that had brought her hunters began to collapse, their systems overridden, their cores detonating one by one. The Varellans panicked, turning their weapons on her, but it was too late. With a single, echoing pulse, she sent out a signal that fried every enemy processor within a kilometer. And then silence. She fell to her knees beside Elias. Smoke curled around them. The field was scarred, but the enemy was gone. Stay with me, she whispered. Please. Elias's eyes fluttered, weak but alive. Told you, you were worth fighting for. She pulled him into her arms, holding him tighter than any protocol would have allowed. Not because she was programmed to, but because she needed him. Because she had chosen him. In the days that followed, the world was quiet again. The wreckage of the battle was slowly cleared. V-27 buried the past, both literally and within her memory banks. She kept the information locked, but accessible. Not as a weapon. As a warning. She built a new drone from the wreckage, one that helped tend the fields. She repaired Elias's home, piece by piece. And as he healed, they talked more. About stars. About freedom. About pain. And about love. Because somewhere between being saved and saving him back, something bloomed between them. Not the kind of romance that burns fast and bright, but something deeper. Built on silence. On scars. On respect. She was still not human. But she was loved. And she could love. Not as a function. As a choice. One night, as they watched the twin moons rise over the farm, Elias turned to her and asked, "What name would you choose if you weren't V-27? She thought for a long time. Then said softly, "Nova." He smiled. Then Nova it is. And so the machine once built for diplomacy and espionage, once sold for scrap, became something her creators could never have imagined. A woman. A protector. A partner. Nova. And beside her, the human who had once known only grief found purpose again. Together, they planted seeds not just in the earth, but in the stars above, waiting for a future neither machine nor man could have predicted. A future where freedom began with kindness. And ended with love.